The sky over Lagos was the color of wet cement, and the air felt thick enough to chew. Lily had expected to be stuck at her company's conference hall until evening, listening to the visiting consultant drone on about strategic innovation. But just after lunch, the HR manager announced the session was ending early. The consultant had fallen sick. By 2:15 p.m., Lily was already in an Uber heading home. She didn't text Ryan to say she'd be back early. It wasn't deliberate. She thought it would be a nice surprise. Maybe she'd make his favorite dinner. They'd been together for almost a year. Things weren't perfect, but lately she'd been thinking he might be the one. The Uber stopped outside their apartment block. "Thanks," she told the driver, stepping into the warm air. She climbed the stairs, heels tapping on cement. When she reached their door, she noticed it was ajar. Odd. Ryan never left it unlocked. He was paranoid about security. She pushed it open a fraction and stepped in. The living room looked normal. The gray sofa a little rumpled, a few magazines on the coffee table, his cologne faint in the air. Then she heard it. Voices. Ryan's, smooth and confident, and another she recognized, Caleb, his best friend since university. "So what's the plan with you and Lily?" Caleb asked casually. Ryan's laugh came, low and careless. "Plan? There's no plan, bro. I'm only with her because I'm bored. She's easy, no drama, and honestly, she's just a time filler." The words hit her like a physical blow. She froze in the hallway, pulse hammering. Caleb chuckled. "Ah, you're wicked. So you don't care about her?" "Care? Please," Ryan scoffed. "She's nice, but come on. Look at her. She's not the kind of woman I'd marry. No offense. She's just comfortable. I like comfortable until I'm ready to level up. You get me?" Lily's chest tightened, her breath shallow. She reached into her bag with trembling fingers, unlocked her phone, and hit record. Ryan's voice carried on, casual, cruel. "Besides, she does everything for me. I don't even have to try. I can hang out with whoever I want, and she'll still be there, smiling, cooking, doing her thing. Stress-free. You can't get that with women who have options." Caleb made a low whistle. But she seems like she's really into you." "Oh, she is," Ryan said smugly. "That's the point. She's loyal to a fault. Makes it easy for me too." His voice dipped, but she caught words. "Sasha, maybe next month, see where it goes." She swallowed hard. Caleb's tone turned cautious. "You know this could backfire, right?" Ryan laughed again. "Backfire how? Lily's not going anywhere. She's the type to stick around until I decide it's over. And even if she found out, what would she do? Cry? Please. She needs me more than I need her." The arrogance in his voice burned in her ears. Every second of it was being saved. She waited until they started talking about football, then stepped quietly back into the hallway, closed the door softly, waited a beat, and opened it again loudly. "Ryan? I'm home," she called. There was a scramble inside. "Lily? Hey, babe, wasn't expecting you so early," he said, walking toward her with an easy smile. Caleb was on the sofa, holding a can of malt, smiling politely. "Hi," Lily said brightly. "Meeting got canceled. Thought I'd surprise you." She set down her bag and slipped off her shoes, acting perfectly normal. "Perfect timing," Ryan said. "We were just hanging out. You want something to drink?" "I'm fine," she said. "Actually, I was thinking of making pepper chicken and jollof tonight." His face lit up. "You're the best." "I try," she said lightly, even though inside she was burning. For the next hour, she played her part, laughing at jokes, joining their debate about music, pouring drinks. But every time Ryan looked at her, she remembered his voice saying time filler. By 6 o'clock, Caleb left. His goodbye to her was polite, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of guilt. She wasn't sure. As soon as the door shut, Ryan stretched out on the couch. "So, pepper chicken?" She said, heading to the kitchen. She slipped her phone out, uploaded the recording to a hidden cloud folder, and labeled it Truth. Dinner felt like a stage play. Ryan chatted about work and traffic. She nodded, asked questions, smiled in all the right places. He squeezed her hand across the table, and she didn't pull away. Later, when they watched TV, She kept her head on his shoulder like always, but her mind was cataloging everything. The little lies, the smug tone, the way he seemed so sure she'd never leave. When he fell asleep on the couch, she studied his face in the dim light. This was the man she trusted, cooked for, loved. Now every memory felt counterfeit. Her phone buzzed softly. She checked it. A message from Caleb. We need to talk. Alone. Her heart thumped. She typed back, when and where. His reply was immediate, tomorrow. 10 a.m. cafe at Johnny. Don't tell Ryan. She stared at the screen, adrenaline humming through her veins. If Ryan's best friend wanted to meet in secret, it meant only one thing. There was more to the story, and she was going to find out exactly what it was. The first light of morning crept into the room, pale and unassuming, but it found Lily wide awake. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, Ryan's voice came back in perfect clarity. Mocking, confident, cruel. I'm only with her because I'm bored. She had the recording safely stored in the cloud, but she knew she couldn't use it yet. Not until she understood the full scope of what he was hiding. She slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb him. In the bathroom, she turned on the tap and stared at herself in the mirror. Her dark brown eyes looked tired, shadowed, and her smile, when she tried one, felt like a stranger's. She practiced until it looked effortless. She would need that smile all day. When she stepped out, Ryan was in the kitchen, shirtless in gray sweatpants, frying eggs. He looked over his shoulder, gave her a warm grin. Morning, sleepyhead. You were knocked out last night. She poured herself water, keeping her tone even. Yeah, I guess I was tired. You want breakfast? I'm making enough for both of us. Sure, she said, forcing a small smile. He moved around the kitchen with the ease of someone who believed everything in his life was secure. So, what's your plan for today? Work, she replied. A few meetings. You? Same. Might have drinks with Caleb later. See what he's up to. He slid scrambled eggs and toast onto 2 plates. Eat. You'll need your strength. She almost laughed at that, but managed to hold it in. They ate together, and she matched his casual tone, asking about work projects, nodding at his answers, laughing at his jokes. To him, it was an ordinary morning. To her, it was the start of something very different. When he left for work, she sat at the table for a moment, sipping coffee, staring into the distance. She checked the time. 2 hours until her meeting with Caleb. The cafe was quiet, its warm lighting and wooden tables giving it an intimate feel. Lily arrived early, choosing a seat in the corner where she could watch the entrance. She ordered a latte and kept her phone on the table. At exactly 10 a.m., Caleb walked in. He scanned the room until his gaze landed on her. He crossed over and slid into the chair opposite her. Lily, he said, his tone cautious. Caleb. They held each other's gaze for a moment before he spoke again. I wasn't sure you'd come. You told me we needed to talk alone, she said. So talk. He leaned forward slightly. What did you hear yesterday? Everything, she replied. Every word. Caleb exhaled. Then you already know Ryan isn't who you think he is. She studied him. You're his best friend. Why are you telling me this? That's exactly why, Caleb said. I've seen him do this before. He dates women he doesn't care about. Keeps them around until someone richer, more connected, or more exciting comes along. Then he drops them like they meant nothing. Her voice was low but steady. How many times has he done this? At least 3 that I know of, Caleb said. He's careful, but I've caught enough to see the pattern. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. You should see this. She opened it and felt her stomach tighten. Screenshots. WhatsApp chats with a woman named Sasha. The messages were recent, one from yesterday morning. Ryan, I'm bored. Need to see you. Sasha, you said you were busy all week. Ryan, I'll make time for you. You know I prefer you. Her grip on the folder tightened. Who is she? Caleb's expression was grim. Sasha Adebayo. Runs a high-end fashion label. Comes for money. Ryan's been trying to get close to her for months. He's planning to leave you for her. Lily set the folder down carefully. Why now, Caleb? Why tell me this today? Because you're walking into something you don't see yet. If you confront him without a plan, he'll twist it around. He's done it before. But if you gather enough proof, he tapped the folder, you can make sure everyone sees him for what he is. She leaned back. I already have proof. From yesterday. His eyebrows lifted. You recorded him? Yes. All of it. Caleb gave a slow, approving nod. Then you're holding the key. It's just about how and when you use it. The rest of the day at her office passed in a blur. She sat through meetings, answered emails, but her mind was elsewhere. At lunch, she created a fake social media profile with a new name and photos pulled from small, untraceable fashion accounts. She searched for Sasha's profile, found it immediately. It was exactly as Caleb described, sleek, glamorous, filled with pictures of champagne brunches and designer clothes. She sent a friend request, then waited. By evening, Sasha had accepted. Lily didn't rush in. She waited a few hours, then sent a casual message introducing herself as a mutual acquaintance from the Lagos business scene. Sasha replied politely, and they exchanged a few light messages about restaurants and events. Lily kept it warm and friendly, careful not to seem too interested. Over the next few days, their exchanges became more relaxed. They shared thoughts about places to eat, upcoming charity events, even jokes about the unpredictable Lagos weather. Then, casually, Lily dropped Ryan's name. Funny, she wrote. I think I've seen you with someone I know, tall, charming guy. Ryan. Yes. Sasha replied after a pause. We know each other. Lily responded. Small world. I've heard he's quite the character. Sasha sent a laughing emoji but didn't elaborate. Lily kept the conversation light until Sasha finally asked, Why do you say that? Lily hesitated before replying. Because he told someone I know something about you, something similar to what he told me. What did he say about you? Sasha typed. Lily attached the audio clip of Ryan's voice. I'm only with her because I'm bored. She's easy, no drama, a time filler. The message was seen immediately. After a pause, Sasha replied, He told me the same thing about you. Lily sat back in her chair, staring at the screen. The confirmation settled everything. Ryan was playing both of them. But for now, she kept her tone polite. Well, she wrote, then maybe we should compare notes sometime. Sasha's reply was short but telling. Maybe we should. That night, Ryan came home in his usual good mood. They cooked together, laughed about a ridiculous video one of his friends had sent, and he kissed her goodnight, like nothing had changed. She smiled back like she always did, her practiced mask never slipping. Inside, though, the game had already shifted. She now had proof, and she had an ally, whether Sasha knew it yet or not. And for Lily, that was enough to set the next move in motion. The following morning, Lily was at her desk by 8:30 a.m., but her mind wasn't on the quarterly sales report open in front of her. She kept replaying Sasha's message in her head. He told me the same thing about you. That simple sentence had shifted the balance in ways Ryan couldn't imagine. She now had two things he didn't, truth and time. She didn't need to rush. She needed to prepare. By 10 a.m., she had already decided she wasn't going to handle this alone. She picked up her phone and called Caleb. Hello. It's me, Lily said. He sounded alert. I've been waiting for your call. Did you talk to Sasha? Yes, she said. And Caleb, he's playing her too. There was silence for a moment. Then Caleb sighed. Not surprised. But now you have a witness. I have more than that, Lily replied. I have proof, and she has her own proof. We need to meet. They agreed on a quiet wine lounge in Lekki later that evening. Lily arrived first, choosing a private booth away from the main bar. The soft lighting and low music gave the space a calm, almost conspiratorial feel. Caleb came in wearing a crisp white shirt and dark jeans, his face serious. A few minutes later, Sasha walked in. Sasha was taller than Lily expected, with a commanding presence that drew eyes as she crossed the room. She wore a deep blue jumpsuit that looked like it belonged on a runway and carried herself with the quiet authority of someone used to being listened to. When she reached the booth, her eyes swept over Lily before settling into something neutral. You must be Lily, she said. That's me, Lily replied, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. Sasha shook it briefly, then glanced at Caleb. And you are? Caleb, he said. Ryan's former best friend, I guess. They sat, and Lily decided to get straight to the point. You know why we're here. Sasha's gaze was sharp. I know Ryan lied to me, but what I don't know is why either of you care enough to involve me in this. I care because he's been lying to me too, Lily said evenly. And I'm done being polite about it. Caleb cares because I've watched him ruin people, Caleb finished. I've covered for him in the past. I'm not doing it anymore. Sasha leaned back, crossing her arms. So what's your plan? Lily exchanged a glance with Caleb. First, we compare what we know. Then, we decide what to do with it. She pulled out her phone and played the recording. Ryan's voice spilled into the quiet booth. I'm only with her because I'm bored. She's easy, no drama, a time filler. Caleb watched Sasha's expression shift from anger to something colder. When the clip ended, Sasha took a slow breath, then opened her own phone and played her recording. Ryan's tone was just as smug. Sasha, she's just good for networking. She knows people I want to meet. That's all. Hearing it in his own voice was different. It wasn't gossip or assumption, it was fact. Caleb's jaw tightened. Classic Ryan, he muttered. Sasha set her phone down. So we have matching recordings. That's solid. We also have his chats with you, Lily said, nodding toward Caleb. And I have months of messages between me and him, dates, photos, everything that will make his words harder to deny. Caleb leaned forward. If we're doing this, we do it properly. No half measures. We collect everything, screenshots, audio, even testimonies if we can get them. And when it's all ready, we choose the moment to drop it. Somewhere public. Somewhere he can't talk his way out. Sasha studied them for a moment, then nodded slowly. If we're doing this, we're doing it for real. I'm in. But I'm not here to be anyone's friend. I'm here because Ryan doesn't get to walk away from this untouched. For the next 2 hours, they went through what each of them had. Lily forwarded copies of the chats and recordings to an encrypted drive Caleb set up on the spot. Sasha contributed screenshots of recent messages where Ryan tried to arrange private dinners behind Lily's back, and even a selfie he had sent from Lily's apartment the week before, while Lily had been at work. The pettiness of it made Lily's chest ache, but she refused to let it show. Caleb was meticulous. He organized everything into folders labeled by date and type of evidence. The more structured this is, the easier it will be to present, he explained. We want a timeline that tells the story clearly. No gaps. Lily nodded. We also have to decide on the audience. Who needs to see this? Just us confronting him? Or everyone? Sasha's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Everyone. Ryan thrives on image. If you take that from him, you take everything. By the time they left the lounge, the outline of a plan was in place. Over the next week, each of them would gather as much as they could. Caleb would discreetly reach out to 2 other women he suspected had been in Ryan's time-filler rotation before Lily. Sasha would keep up her casual interactions with him to see if he'd say something incriminating again. Lily would continue playing the perfect girlfriend, keeping him comfortable and unsuspecting. The days that followed were a strange exercise in dual living for Lily. In public and at home, she was affectionate, supportive, and attentive. In private, she was cataloging every call, every message, every suspicious change in his schedule. Ryan seemed oblivious, even telling her one night over dinner, "You're so different from other women I've dated. You don't stress me. You're just easy to be with." She smiled, thinking about the folder labeled evidence that was steadily growing. Her conversations with Sasha became more open. What had started as cautious exchanges turned into pointed discussions about Ryan's patterns. "He told me he was in a meeting at 4 p.m. yesterday," Sasha said in one voice message. "Then I saw him at the gym with some woman I don't know." Lily had seen the same thing happen before, Ryan lying about his whereabouts without hesitation. Caleb proved to be the most resourceful of them all. By midweek, he had confirmed at least one other woman Ryan had dated using the same placeholder approach. She agreed to share her story if needed. Caleb also managed to dig up an old voice note Ryan had sent bragging to a friend about how keeping one woman loyal while you date another is an art. The arrogance in his tone was almost identical to what Lily had recorded. One Friday evening, the three met again, this time at Sasha's office after hours. The large conference table was covered in printed screenshots, transcribed voice notes, and a shared laptop displaying the growing evidence archive. It was a strange sort of war room, and Ryan had no idea it existed. Lily looked over the table, feeling the weight of what they were building. "Once this is out, there's no going back," she said quietly. "That's the point," Sasha replied. Caleb leaned on the table. "We need the reveal to hit hard. It can't just be a social media post or a private confrontation. We need him surrounded by people whose opinions matter to him, friends, business contacts, maybe even family. Somewhere formal. Somewhere he'll be completely exposed." They discussed possible venues, a party, a networking dinner, even a charity event Ryan had been planning to attend with Sasha in 2 weeks. That option quickly rose to the top. "He'll be there expecting to look good," Sasha said. "And instead, we make sure he leaves with nothing." They worked late into the night, refining the plan. Every detail mattered. Who would be there? How the recordings would be played? How each of them would act in the moment. It wasn't just about embarrassing him. It was about dismantling the version of himself he had so carefully constructed. When they finally packed up, Lily felt a strange calm. She wasn't rushing toward the confrontation anymore. She was walking toward it with measured steps, each one deliberate. For the first time since hearing his voice that day, she felt like she wasn't just reacting. She was controlling the pace. By the time she got home, Ryan was already asleep on the couch, the TV still playing softly. She stood in the doorway for a moment, studying him. To anyone else, he looked peaceful, unbothered. To her, he looked like a man standing on a trapdoor he didn't know was about to open. She picked up a throw blanket and draped it over him before turning off the TV. Then she went to bed, knowing that the next phase of her life was already in motion. Lily sat at her desk on Monday morning, her laptop open but her attention fixed on her phone. She had been waiting for the right time to act, and now she knew exactly where to start. The plan she, Caleb, and Sasha had pieced together over the last week was airtight, but it needed a proper trigger. Ryan was already convinced of his own untouchable charm, and that arrogance would be the very thing that brought him down. The first step was to make sure Sasha had every reason to work with her. Sasha was already halfway in. She had the same grievances, the same proof of Ryan's duplicity. But Lily understood that people like Sasha didn't commit to something fully until they could see the benefit for themselves. This wasn't about convincing Sasha that Ryan was bad. She already knew that. This was about showing her that working together was the most effective way to deal with him. She opened Instagram and scrolled through Sasha's profile again. Everything about it radiated luxury. Designer outfits, first-class flights, 5-star hotels, champagne glasses clinking at rooftop bars. In the captions, Sasha's tone was warm but confident, often sprinkling in motivational lines about self-worth and power. Lily understood the brand Sasha had built, a woman in control, someone admired and envied in equal measure. If Ryan could make someone like that look foolish, it would be a direct hit to her carefully cultivated image. That was leverage. She typed a message under her fake profile, keeping it friendly but intriguing. "Ran into a mutual acquaintance this weekend. Small world. Let's grab coffee sometime. I think we'd have a lot to talk about." The response came within the hour. "Which mutual acquaintance?" "Ryan," Lily replied, "though acquaintance might be putting it lightly in your case." There was a pause before Sasha's typing bubble appeared again. "Ah, him. And you are, let's just say, someone who's been in your position." At lunch, Lily called Caleb. "She's biting," Lily said without preamble. "Good," he replied. "But remember, Sasha's not the type you can push. She has to think it's her idea to join forces." "I know. I'm just making sure she sees the picture clearly." "What's your angle?" Caleb asked. "I want her to realize she's not the only one he's been stringing along. And I want her to know she's not in control of the situation with him, no matter how much she thinks she is." By the end of the workday, Sasha had messaged again. Meet me tomorrow at Le Jardin, 4 p.m. I don't like dancing around things. Lily smiled at the screen. Sasha wasn't one for subtlety, and that would make the conversation easier. Le Jardin was one of those cafes that looked like it belonged in a European postcard. White walls, lush plants in clay pots, polished wood furniture. Lily arrived 10 minutes early, ordering a pot of mint tea. Sasha arrived exactly on time, wearing a tailored cream blazer over a silk blouse, her hair pulled back into a sleek bun. She didn't sit right away. She scanned the space, then finally slid into the chair opposite Lily. So, Sasha began. You've been in my position. Explain. Lily sipped her tea before answering. You've been seeing Ryan for a while, right? Sasha's eyes narrowed slightly. A few months. During that time, did he ever make you feel like you were different from other women? Sasha gave a small, humorless laugh. That's one of his main tricks. Makes you feel like you're the exception. Why? Because he told me the same thing, Lily said, while telling other women something similar about me. Sasha leaned back, crossing her arms. You're saying I'm not the only one. I'm saying he has a pattern. I found out because I came home early one day and overheard him telling his best friend that I'm just a time filler. I recorded it. Lily took out her phone, opened the file, and pressed play. Ryan's voice filled the air between them, confident, dismissive, cruel. Sasha's expression didn't change at first, but Lily saw her fingers curl slightly against the edge of the table. When the clip ended, Sasha reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. I have one too. She played a recording of Ryan telling her she was good for networking, but not the settling down type. Hearing it back-to-back with her own recording felt like proof of a crime. Seems like he has a script, Lily said dryly. Sasha exhaled slowly. So what's your goal here? Revenge? Closure? Neither, Lily replied. It's about making sure he can't do this to anyone else. And yes, maybe it's about watching him lose the image he's built for himself. Sasha studied her for a long moment. And you think I'll help you? I think you've already started, Lily said, because you wouldn't be here if you didn't want to. Over the next hour, they compared notes, dates, lies, overlapping timelines. The pieces fit together like a map of Ryan's manipulation. Sasha's version of him was almost identical to Lily's. Same charm, same excuses, same strategic affection. Caleb's earlier description of Ryan as a man who collects loyalty like currency echoed in Lily's mind. At one point, Sasha asked, "Why involve Caleb? Isn't he Ryan's friend?" He was, Lily said. But even Caleb has limits. He's seen too much. Do you trust him? Yes, Lily said without hesitation. If I didn't, I wouldn't be doing any of this. By the time they left Le Jardin, Sasha's tone had shifted. She wasn't just participating out of curiosity anymore. She was invested. She agreed to feed Ryan small amounts of information over the next week. Details about fake business contacts, invitations to imaginary events, so they could see if he would try to leverage them for his own gain. The more they caught him in the act, the stronger their case would be. That evening, Ryan was in the kitchen opening a bottle of wine when Lily got home. "Hey, babe," he said. "You're late." "Got caught up at work," she replied, setting her bag down. She glanced at him casually. "How was your day?" "Same old. Had a meeting run long, grabbed lunch with a client." She wondered if the client had been Sasha. "Sounds productive," she said with a smile, pouring herself a glass of wine. They had dinner, watched a movie, and Ryan never suspected that the woman sitting next to him had just spent an hour with the other woman in his life, planning his downfall. The next week played out like a slow, deliberate game of chess. Sasha messaged Ryan about a supposed fashion gala happening in 3 weeks, claiming it would be filled with important investors and high-value contacts. She invited him to come as her guest. Predictably, Ryan said yes immediately, even rearranging one of his business meetings to attend. At the same time, Lily kept up her role as the supportive girlfriend. She cooked his favorite meals, listened to him complain about traffic, even massaged his shoulders when he came home looking tired. It was a performance, and she played it perfectly. The more secure he felt, the less careful he became. One afternoon, Caleb called her. "We've got something," he said. "Ryan just asked one of the other women for a loan, said he needed it to close a deal. She sent me the messages. He doesn't know she's in contact with me." Lily smiled faintly. "Add it to the folder." By the end of the week, their evidence was overwhelming. They had recordings, screenshots, and testimonies from 3 different women, all telling variations of the same story. The pattern was undeniable. Ryan treated relationships like business transactions, investing only enough effort to keep the other person useful until he was ready to move on. The most telling piece came from Sasha. She sent Lily a voice note late one night. In it, Ryan could be heard saying, "Don't worry about Lily. She's harmless. She wouldn't know what to do with information even if she had it." Lily listened to it twice, not because she doubted it, but because it was exactly the kind of arrogance that would make the reveal so satisfying. The 3 met again at Sasha's office the following Saturday. The conference table was even more crowded than before. Documents, USB drives, labeled envelopes. Caleb had brought a portable projector so they could review the timeline on a large screen. It was meticulous. Every message, every call, every recorded word was arranged chronologically. "We're ready," Caleb said, scrolling through the files. "The only thing left is the setting." "The gala," Sasha said. "It's perfect. He'll be there thinking he's working the room, and instead, we'll work him." Lily nodded. "We'll need to control the flow. He can't leave before everything's been shown." "That's where I come in," Sasha said. "I'll make sure he's front and center when it starts." They finalized the details, how the recordings would be played, who would present the messages, how each of them would react. It wasn't about creating chaos. It was about precision. By the time they were done, Ryan's name would be mud in every circle that mattered to him. When they finished, Lily felt a deep, steady sense of resolve. This wasn't anger anymore. It was justice, methodically built, and soon to be delivered. She left the office that day knowing that the man who once thought she needed him more than he needed her was about to discover just how wrong he was. The morning air was thick with humidity when Lily woke up, the sound of distant car horns drifting in from the street below. Ryan was already up, moving around in the kitchen. She could hear him humming to himself as he prepared breakfast, completely unaware that every movement he made was another step toward his own undoing. The gala Sasha had invented was now firmly on his calendar, marked in bold red ink. He had even mentioned it twice over the weekend, telling Lily it would be a good networking opportunity for him, without realizing that she knew exactly where the idea had come from. Lily stepped into the kitchen, greeting him with a casual smile. "You're in a good mood this morning." "Yeah," Ryan said, flipping an omelet. "Got a couple of big meetings this week, and there's that event coming up. Might be good for me, career-wise." She poured herself coffee, her face the picture of support. "Sounds promising. Who's organizing it?" "Sasha," he said without hesitation. "She's well connected. It'll be good to be seen with her there." He said it with such casual confidence that it almost made her laugh. He wasn't even hiding the fact that he was going with another woman. He just framed it in a way that made it sound like business. She leaned on the counter. "You two seem pretty close." Ryan shrugged. "We work well together. She's got access to circles I don't." "Networking," Lily said, keeping her tone light. "Exactly." He plated the omelet and handed her a fork. "You understand these things better than most women. That's why I like you. You don't overreact about harmless stuff." She smiled faintly, knowing that in 2 weeks, he would wish she had overreacted. They ate together, chatting about neutral topics, but she mentally filed away every phrase he used to justify his relationship with Sasha. It would be useful later when they showed everyone the real picture. Later that day, Lily met Caleb at a quiet corner table in a coffee shop. He arrived carrying his laptop bag and a folder stuffed with papers. "Sasha told me Ryan's been asking her about investors at this gala," Caleb said as soon as they sat down. "That's exactly what we wanted," Lily replied. "She's feeding him just enough to make him believe it's real." Caleb nodded. "We should also be ready in case he tries to pull her aside before the event to seal some deal." That could change how we position the reveal. They went over the plan again, refining the small details. Caleb had drafted a list of potential attendees who could make the fallout worse for Ryan. People whose respect he craved, business associates who wouldn't tolerate his kind of behavior once it was public. Some were mutual contacts between Sasha and Ryan. Others were from Lily's side, acquaintances who could carry the story further after the night was over. This isn't just about humiliating him in front of a room, Caleb said. It's about making sure that room is full of the right witnesses. Agreed, Lily said. Once it's out, it needs to spread fast and stick. Meanwhile, Sasha played her role perfectly. She sent Ryan updates about the guest list, dropping names of fake investors and potential collaborators. She even went so far as to have a graphic designer friend create a digital invitation with an elegant gold and white theme, complete with a logo for a made-up luxury investment firm. Ryan was impressed enough to forward the invite to a few of his contacts, bragging about the event. One evening, Sasha called Lily. "He's completely bought in," she said. "Asked me yesterday what color tie would make the right impression at the gala." Lily smiled. "Let him keep planning. The more effort he puts in, the harder it'll hit." He also asked if I could introduce him to a particular investor on the guest list, Sasha continued. "A man who doesn't exist." "Perfect," Lily said. "We can use that to show how easily he lies when we reveal everything." Over the next week, Lily played her part flawlessly. At home, she was attentive, affectionate, and just distant enough to make Ryan think she was busy with her own commitments. She let him believe he had the freedom to maneuver however he pleased, even asking questions about the gala, as though she were mildly curious, but not concerned. Every time he answered, he layered on another lie about the nature of the event, his connection to Sasha, or the opportunities it would bring. Caleb continued gathering side evidence, contacting people who had worked with Ryan in the past, and collecting stories of similar manipulation. One former acquaintance described how Ryan had promised to connect him with a business partner in exchange for temporary financial help, but had vanished after getting the money. Another woman told Caleb about a short relationship in which Ryan had alternated between over-the-top affection and cold detachment until she confronted him, at which point he had disappeared entirely. Each account added weight to the case they were building. By midweek, they held another planning session at Sasha's office. The walls were covered in pinned-up evidence, printed WhatsApp chats, still images from social media posts, transcripts of audio recordings. On the conference table, Caleb had arranged everything into a physical timeline, each incident marked with the date, the lie told, and the proof that exposed it. "On the night of the gala," Caleb said, "we'll run through this in a way that connects the dots. We don't just want to show he lied. We want to show the pattern." Sasha leaned over the table. "And we make sure every guest sees it clearly. I'll position him near the center of the room when it starts. He won't be able to slip out." Lily glanced over the table one more time. "It's all here. His words, his actions, his arrogance, it's all documented. When this goes live, there'll be no doubt." In the days leading up to the event, Ryan's behavior only reinforced their plan. He became more invested in the gala than in anything else, even skipping one of his regular gym sessions to review his pitch for meeting certain guests. One night over dinner, he told Lily, "This could open doors for me you wouldn't believe. Sasha knows people who can change the game." "I'm sure she does," Lily replied with an encouraging smile, hiding the knowledge that the only thing Sasha was about to change was the way people looked at him forever. The night before the gala, Sasha sent Ryan a final guest list update, complete with fake seating arrangements and a note about how excited the investors were to meet him. Ryan replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a message about how he had the perfect suit ready. To Lily, Sasha sent a different message. "He's locked in. All that's left is to show him the truth." By the morning of the event, everything was in place. Lily spent the day at work going over her part of the plan one last time. She knew exactly when she would speak, exactly what she would show, and exactly how to keep her composure while doing it. This wasn't about yelling or dramatic scenes. It was about precision. Ryan prided himself on being smooth, on staying calm under pressure. She wanted to strip that calm away in front of an audience that mattered to him. When she got home, Ryan was ironing his suit, humming again. "Big night," he said. "Looks like it," she replied, watching him for a moment. He looked completely at ease, confident in the fantasy he had built for himself. She said nothing else, just went to change, letting the final hours before his unraveling pass in silence. The morning of the gala was bright, with the kind of heat that made even the breeze feel heavy. Lily woke early, not because she was nervous, but because she was determined to review every detail one last time. The plan they had crafted over the past weeks had been checked, rechecked, and tested in theory until there was no room for error. Tonight was execution night. By 9 a.m., she was on a video call with Caleb and Sasha. Caleb's background was filled with stacks of folders and a laptop propped open to a shared cloud drive. Sasha's screen showed her office, sleek, modern, and impeccably tidy. "We're confirmed for 8 o'clock, Sasha began. "Venue has been arranged exactly as we planned. Ryan will think it's just another upscale networking space, soft lighting, champagne service, background jazz. But the projector and audio setup will be ready on my cue." Caleb nodded. "I've got all the evidence sorted into a presentation. It's clean, time-stamped, and each section flows into the next without gaps. Once it starts, he'll have no space to argue or twist the story." Lily's tone was calm but firm. "We're not rushing. We let him settle in, feel comfortable. The reveal happens only when every key person is in the room and paying attention." They went through the guest list again. Caleb had confirmed at least a dozen individuals whose opinions Ryan valued, business contacts, acquaintances from social circles he wanted to climb, and 2 potential collaborators he had been trying to impress for months. Sasha had personally invited them, framing the gala as a curated opportunity to mingle with serious players. The bait was perfect, and Ryan had swallowed it without suspicion. By early afternoon, Lily turned her focus to her own appearance. This wasn't about dressing to compete with Sasha or to impress Ryan. It was about presenting an image of control, poised, confident, unshaken. She chose a deep emerald green gown that fit her figure elegantly without being overly revealing, paired with gold drop earrings and a sleek low bun. Her makeup was subtle but polished, the kind that could withstand hours under warm lights without fading. When she looked in the mirror, she saw exactly what she wanted Ryan to see tonight, a woman who could not be dismissed as easy or harmless. Ryan, in contrast, was full of restless energy. She found him in the bedroom, going through his wardrobe with the seriousness of a man preparing for a televised interview. He had laid out 3 different suits on the bed, finally settling on a navy-tailored one with a crisp white shirt and a silver tie. "What do you think?" he asked. "Sharp," Lily said, adjusting his tie with a small smile. He grinned. "You're going to make me look even better just by standing next to me." "Glad to help," she replied evenly, though she knew that by the end of the night, he'd wish she had stayed home. The venue was a boutique event hall tucked away on a quiet street in Victoria Island. From the outside, it looked like any other high-end Lego space. Polished stone walls, warm exterior lighting, valet service at the entrance. Inside, the main room was a blend of sophistication and intimacy. Round tables draped in white linen, a central open space for mingling, a small stage at the far end with a projector screen discreetly mounted above it. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine and polished wood. Sasha was already there when Lily and Ryan arrived, greeting guests with a practiced warmth that made everyone feel like they belonged. She wore a gold floor-length gown that shimmered under the lights, her hair styled in a sleek chignon. "You made it," she said, smiling at Ryan before giving Lily a polite nod. "Wouldn't miss it," Ryan replied smoothly. "Looks like a good crowd." "It is," Sasha said. "Lots of interesting people to meet tonight. You'll want to make the most of it." Ryan took her cue immediately, beginning his slow circuit of the room, shaking hands, laughing in just the right tone, sprinkling compliments where they would stick. Lily stayed a few steps behind at times, observing him like a scientist watching a test subject. Every gesture, every expression he wore was part of the image he'd spent years crafting, the charming, ambitious man with endless potential. It was almost impressive, knowing how false it all was. Caleb arrived 20 minutes later, blending into the crowd easily in a dark suit. He moved with purpose, checking in with the tech team to ensure the presentation setup was exactly as they'd specified. When he passed Lily, he gave the smallest of nods. Everything was in place. The first hour unfolded exactly as they had anticipated. Ryan was in his element, laughing with a cluster of business people near the champagne bar, gesturing confidently as he spoke. From time to time, he would glance across the room at Sasha, as though silently acknowledging her role in bringing him there. Sasha, for her part, played along perfectly, occasionally drawing him into conversations with guests, then excusing herself to speak with someone else, keeping him in motion and visible. Lily took advantage of the time to circulate as well, engaging with a few acquaintances and subtly noting who Ryan seemed most eager to impress. One was a middle-aged man in a charcoal suit, introduced to him as a private equity partner. Another was a woman in her 40s, wearing a tailored navy dress, presented as a potential investor in his so-called future ventures. Both were part of Sasha's fabricated list, their attendance arranged through her network of friends willing to play along for the sake of the night's true purpose. As the evening progressed, Caleb and Sasha exchanged quiet signals from across the room, watching the door until the last of their targeted guests had arrived. Once the key players were all present, Sasha subtly shifted the tone of the event. She guided the conversations toward the stage area, mentioning that there would be a short presentation before dinner. Ryan, believing it to be part of the gala's professional agenda, followed willingly, even helping encourage others to take their seats. When everyone was settled, Sasha stepped onto the small stage, microphone in hand. She thanked the guests for coming, spoke briefly about the spirit of collaboration in their community, and then, with practiced ease, transitioned to introducing Caleb. He'll be sharing something tonight that speaks to the importance of transparency in both business and personal relationships, she said, her eyes flicking briefly to Lily in the crowd. Caleb took the microphone and began without flourish. His voice was calm, deliberate. We often talk about trust as the foundation of any lasting partnership, whether in business or in our personal lives. But trust is only as strong as the truth behind it. He clicked a small remote, and the projector screen lit up. The first slide appeared, a screenshot of a WhatsApp conversation between Ryan and Sasha. It was casual at first, then clearly shifted into flirtation. A murmur rippled through the room. Caleb continued, moving through the slides. More messages, snippets of conversations with other women, the patterns becoming undeniable. He spoke sparingly, letting the evidence speak for itself. Then came the audio. Ryan's voice filled the room. I'm only with her because I'm bored. She's easy, no drama, a time filler. Heads turned toward Lily, then back to the screen. Before the weight of those words could settle fully, Sasha's own recording followed. Sasha? She's just good for networking. She knows people I want to meet. That's all. The air in the room thickened with discomfort. Caleb concluded with a final slide, a simple timeline showing the overlap between the relationships, color-coded to make the deception clear. He thanked the guests for their attention and stepped back. No one applauded. The silence was heavy. Lily remained seated, her posture composed, her expression calm. She didn't need to speak. The truth was already laid out in a way that no argument or excuse could erase. Ryan sat frozen for several seconds, the mask of confidence slipping in real time. Around them, quiet conversations began, guests leaning toward each other, murmuring, casting sidelong glances at him. The people he had come to impress now saw him in an entirely different light. Dinner was served shortly after, but the energy in the room had shifted completely. Ryan's attempts to rejoin conversations were met with polite detachment. The contacts he had hoped to charm were now keeping their distance. He was still physically present, but socially, he had been pushed to the edges. Lily ate her meal quietly, engaging in light conversation with the guest beside her, never once looking in Ryan's direction unless absolutely necessary. Across the table, Sasha was doing the same, her poise unshaken. Caleb, seated near the back, kept a watchful eye on the room, but otherwise blended into the background. By the time the evening wound down, Ryan's once confident smile had faded entirely. The image he had worked so hard to project had been dismantled, piece by piece, in front of the very people he wanted to impress most. And though Lily didn't gloat, she allowed herself a small, inward acknowledgement. The trap had been set, and it had sprung exactly as planned. The hum of quiet conversation that had filled the gala earlier was now a different sound entirely, a low, uneasy buzz of speculation, judgment, and disbelief. People weren't talking about investments or business opportunities anymore. They were talking about Ryan. His name traveled from table to table like a whispered warning. Lily could see it in the way heads tilted toward one another, in the furtive glances that flicked his way. The polite smiles people had worn earlier were now replaced by looks of guarded curiosity or outright disdain. Ryan sat stiffly at his table, his fork hovering over his plate, untouched. The confident charm he had displayed earlier was gone. He looked like a man trying to calculate his next move in a game where the rules had changed without his consent. Across from him, Sasha sipped her wine as if nothing had happened, her face composed and unreadable. Lily's posture was relaxed, her hands resting lightly in her lap. She didn't need to add to the scene. Everything that needed to be said had already been spoken in his own voice, played through the speakers for everyone to hear. The first direct blow came from the man Ryan had been so eager to impress, the so-called private equity partner Sasha had introduced earlier. He stood, shook Lily's hand politely, then turned to Ryan. "It's a shame," he said in a tone just loud enough for several tables to hear. "In my line of work, trust is non-negotiable. Once you lose that, you've lost everything worth building on." With that, he excused himself, walking away without another word. Ryan's jaw tightened, his eyes following the man out of the room. The next came from the woman in the navy dress, the potential investor. She approached their table, her expression cool. "Ryan," she said, "I've always believed how someone conducts themselves personally is a reflection of how they'll conduct themselves professionally. Tonight has made that clear. Good evening." She didn't wait for a response before leaving. It wasn't just the big names. A ripple of disengagement moved through the room as smaller groups quietly distanced themselves from him. People who had been leaning in to speak with him earlier were now making excuses to step away, heading for the bar or the exit. The subtle but unmistakable shift in body language, the avoidance of eye contact, the way chairs angled away from him, told Lily everything she needed to know. Socially, Ryan was already sinking. He tried to recover. Lily watched him force a smile at a nearby guest, attempting to restart a conversation. "You know how things can be taken out of context," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the projector screen, as if the evidence shown could be reduced to a misunderstanding. But the guest simply nodded without enthusiasm, gave a polite and found a reason to drift away. Caleb moved quietly around the room, speaking with a few key guests, not about Ryan, but about neutral topics, maintaining the atmosphere enough so that the humiliation continued in a natural, sustained way. This wasn't about shouting or dramatic confrontations. It was about letting the truth take root in people's minds until it became the only version of the story they could accept. At one point, Ryan stood and walked over to Sasha. "We need to talk," he said under his breath. Sasha looked up at him with a measured calm. "We already did. You just didn't realize it." "I don't know what you think you're doing," he hissed quietly, "but this isn't going to end the way you think." "It already has," she replied, her tone even, "and it ended in your own words." He turned next to Lily, who met his gaze without flinching. "You set me up," he accused. "No," she said simply. "You set yourself up. I just let people hear the truth." Her voice was steady, unshaken, and it carried enough that the two guests nearest them turned slightly, catching the exchange. Ryan's cheeks flushed, the weight of overheard shame pressing in. Dinner continued, but Ryan barely touched his food. Every so often, he would check his phone, his thumbs moving quickly as if trying to control the narrative through messages. Whether he was reaching out to friends, allies, or anyone who might salvage his image, it didn't matter. In that room, the damage was already done. By the time dessert was served, the shift in the room was complete. People were laughing again, but not with him. They were leaning into their own conversations, ignoring his presence entirely. Sasha was in deep conversation with a small group near the bar, her laughter ringing clear. Lily was engaged with a couple she knew from her work, their interest in her unaffected by the scandal that had just unfolded. Caleb remained a quiet presence, ensuring Ryan was left without a foothold. When the event officially wound down, guests began saying their goodbyes. Some shook Lily's hand, offering quiet words of respect or subtle acknowledgments that they understood exactly what had transpired. A few nodded at Sasha in silent approval. Not one person sought Ryan out to offer the same courtesy. He left the room alone, his shoulders slightly hunched, his once confident stride replaced by something heavier. Lily didn't follow him. She didn't need to. She stayed until the last of the guests had gone, chatting easily with Sasha and Caleb about unrelated topics. When they finally stepped outside into the warm night air, the hum of the city around them, there was no need to say anything more about what had happened. The humiliation had been public, undeniable, and irreversible. Ryan's reputation had been dismantled not with shouting or threats, but with the simple weight of truth laid bare in front of the right audience. Lily woke the morning after the gala to the faint sound of rain tapping against the window. The soft, steady rhythm was in stark contrast to the noise of the previous night. She lay still for a moment, letting the memory of the event replay, not with the jittery energy of adrenaline, but with the calm satisfaction of someone who had carried out exactly what she set out to do. There had been no shouting, no chaos, no loss of composure. The truth had been presented, received, and embedded in the minds of everyone who mattered. It was done. Ryan was not beside her. She could hear movement in the living room, drawers opening and closing, the shuffle of footsteps. She got up, pulled on a robe, and stepped out to find him standing near the coffee table, shoving a few of his things into a small duffel bag. He looked tired, his eyes shadowed, his movements jerky. "You're leaving?" she asked, her voice calm. He didn't meet her gaze. "I think it's better if I go for a while." She crossed her arms. "A while or for good?" He zipped the bag and straightened. "Does it matter? After what you did last night, there's nothing left here." "What I did," she repeated. "Ryan, all I did was let people hear your own words. I didn't make them up. I didn't twist them. I just stopped covering for you." He finally looked at her, a mix of frustration and something else, perhaps the faintest edge of shame. "You wanted to humiliate me." "No," she said evenly. "I wanted the truth to matter. The humiliation came from what you chose to do, not from me showing it." He stared at her for a moment, then shook his head. "You're colder than I thought." "You're not the first to underestimate me," she replied. He slung the duffel over his shoulder and walked toward the door. For a brief second, she almost expected him to turn back, to say something sharp or defensive. But he didn't. He left without another word, the door closing behind him with a soft click. The apartment felt larger in his absence, the air lighter. Lily went to the kitchen, made herself tea, and sat at the table without the usual undercurrent of tension that had accompanied so many of their mornings. She took out her phone, not to check for messages from him, but to reply to the ones from people who had reached out since the gala. There were short notes of support, quiet acknowledgments from those who had been in the room. A few even mentioned their respect for the way she had handled herself, measured, composed, letting the facts speak. By mid-morning, she had packed a few things of his that remained, shirts in the closet, a pair of sneakers by the door, a box of random items in the bathroom cabinet. She placed them neatly in a second bag and set it by the door. There was no anger in the act, only finality. That afternoon, she met Sasha and Caleb for lunch at a small restaurant tucked away on a quiet street. The atmosphere was relaxed, the air smelling faintly of grilled peppers and fresh bread. Sasha looked radiant, her gold hoops catching the sunlight as she smiled in greeting. Caleb arrived moments later, a calm satisfaction in his expression. "You look lighter," Sasha said to Lily as they sat. "I am," Lily replied. "He's gone. Took some of his things this morning." "Good," Caleb said. "No point in letting him linger." They ordered food, and while they ate, the conversation drifted between light topics and a few reflections on the past weeks. Sasha admitted she hadn't expected the reveal to be as clean as it had been. "I thought he might cause a scene," she said. But watching him just sit there while his own words played, that was better than anything I imagined. That was the point, Lily said. He thrives on control. Taking it away quietly hurt more than shouting ever could. Caleb raised his glass slightly, to truth, and to not letting people like him walk away without consequence. They clinked glasses, the sound small but satisfying. After lunch, Lily went for a walk through the nearby park. The rain from earlier had left the air fresh, the paths damp and glistening. She took her time, letting her thoughts settle. There was no heaviness in her chest, no lingering what-ifs. She had already grieved the relationship in the weeks before the gala, in the quiet hours when she first heard the recording and realized who Ryan truly was. Last night had simply been the closing of the door. Back at home, she tidied the apartment, moving through each room with an ease she hadn't felt in months. She put on music, made herself a simple dinner, and later curled up on the couch with a book. The quiet was no longer oppressive, it was peaceful. Every so often, her phone buzzed with another message from someone who had been at the gala. She answered a few, ignored others, but kept none of it at the center of her evening. She had no desire to relive the moment over and over. It had served its purpose. The next morning, she woke early and went through her normal routine. She brewed coffee, opened the windows to let in the morning air, and made a mental list of small goals for the day. When she glanced toward the corner of the living room where Ryan's things had been, there was nothing there anymore. He had come sometime in the night or early morning to collect the last bag, leaving no note, no trace. The space felt entirely hers again. She sat at the table with her coffee, the sunlight pooling across the surface. For the first time in a long while, she felt not just free from him, but free from the constant second-guessing that had shadowed their relationship. The plan she, Sasha, and Caleb had built had been more than revenge. It had been a reclamation of her own boundaries, her own voice. She had walked into the fire with her head high, and she had walked out unburned. She didn't know what Ryan would tell people now, what version of events he would spin to save face. But it didn't matter. The people who had been in that room knew the truth, and the truth had been enough. That was all she needed. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please like, comment, and share. Also turn on the bell to get more of our videos. See you in the next story.